Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today it is snowing, so it's going to be a indoor only video today, and this video might surprise a lot of you because in the past I have been a huge advocator of the Taranis Plus, also known as the X9D, and yes, on paper it is the perfect transmitter. It is versatile. You can modify it, so, it can support RC planes, it can do Mission Planner if you want to, and of course, if you want to connect up to your mini quad, then it's absolutely perfect. And I don't really take issue with this transmitter. My issue is with transmitters in general. You see, I've been flying for a long time. I've been flying for 27 years, and I had probably about a 8-year gap, and in all of that time the one thing that hasn't really changed is transmitters. Alright, we went from analog 35 megahertz, 27 megahertz, whatever it is in your country, because it changed depending on the country that you live in. Yeah, it went from that to frequency hopping on 2.4 gigahertz, but you have to remember that happened a long time ago, and I can prove it. Now, I've bought this transmitter into many of my videos. I bought it in 1996, which makes it 22 years old. And if you look at the styling of it compared to the X9D, it's very similar. In fact, there's not a lot of things that you can do with this guy that you can't do with this one. Alright, we've got the old 35 megahertz aerial, but look at this. Takes a modern module. We've got a trainer port on here. We have got all sorts of switches, and we've got the crazy plastic style here. And this is my problem that I've got with transmitters. I don't think they've advanced enough if you compare it to everything else, such as flight controllers, gyros, and absolutely anything you can think of. This transmitter hasn't changed enough at all. And I think that we have become stuck with this technology. Alright, it serves a purpose, and you could argue, yeah, it does everything that we need. But I think it could do much better. Now, the Taranis Plus is actually a clone, believe it or not. And the reason why it's popular in this hobby is probably because of Bruce from RC Model Reviews. Many years ago now, he reviewed it as an alternative to, Futaba, JR, and High-Tech, because, these were expensive and still are expensive if you want to buy a Futaba flagship. So I think this was £250 in 1996, and that got you this, a huge chunky 35 megahertz receiver and a load of servos. And now we have this, like I say, it's a clone of a transmitter that came out around about, I think it was about 2006, and that was called the JR9303. And you can see there, it's pretty much retained the looks of these older transmitters, and we haven't really moved on from that. So, what I'm interested in doing is moving on from this transmitter. Yeah, it's very good, but when you compare it to the likes of a mobile phone, for example, this is stuck in 1999 with all the Nokias where you've got Snake, texts, and phone calls, and that's about it. And I think we can do better than this. I think we should be having Android on here or Windows, and why don't we have Betaflight running on here and it connecting to the copter via the radio signal, or Raceflight, or KISS? And I think the reason that we're not getting that, well, first of all, it is a very niche thing that I'm asking for. But if we keep buying into this old technology, then we're never going to further ourselves. So that's when I started getting interested in the new Frsky products. And quite frankly, it doesn't do a whole lot more than this guy. But I think it's the way forward if we're going to want new technology. And yeah, it's done away with the 1990s looks. So we've got carbon fiber here, we've got a nice big screen. It's not HD screen, in fact it's 480 by 272. I think if you bought a phone with that resolution these days, you'd be very disappointed in that. But the reason that I've gone for it is I want us to advance in transmitter technology. And I think if we keep buying into this guy, I don't think that's gonna happen. So what has this transmitter brought? Well, it's a whole lot heavier. It weighs over a kilogram, whereas this one about 800 grams. And we've got a built-in battery, which you have to remove the screws from to access, which you would think is a downside, but how many phones these days have a removable battery? Absolutely none. And you can still replace the battery. It's two 18650 batteries in there. Like I say, you have to undo the screws, and it charges from this charging port here, and you've got a dedicated charger that just plugs in there like so. We have got the Hall effect gimbals, which are fully aluminium. It comes with its own firmware on there, the Horus firmware, and I instantly switched this out to the OpenTX firmware, which makes it very similar to this. And you might be thinking, well, why do you want to make it similar to this if you're trying to, you know, move away from it? Well, you know, this is very well known, and I think if we can update this into a more modern version and work on that, then I think that's a good idea. Other than that though, it does exactly the same as the old transmitter. We've got sliders on here and sliders on here. We've got a 2-position switch here, 3-position there, 3-position there, 3-position there, and loads of 3-position switches. And we got our trainer switch there. I really wish they put more 2-position switches on this. Just my opinion. We've got potentiometers here. This one has got a little notch in the top there. This one has no notch. And then this is your 6-position switch if you're wanting to use it with Pixhawk, much like how I added this 6-position switch here on the Tyrannus there. And then we have got the dial that has been taken from the Q7. And then these buttons here as well. And like I say, I've done away with the Horus firmware. I would recommend that you upgrade it to OpenTX, which I have done. It's very easy. I might do a video on that in the future. Downsides of this, they have added a SMA connector, but it's recessed, as many have mentioned. It's a little bit of a pain there. I wish they'd just put a normal connector on there so you can add whatever antenna you like. Of course, you can add your modules. They're the JR style module there. We've got this little slot here. We've got the normal USB size here, and then we've got the S port here, and you've got your trainer port and other things, like, you know, if you want to add like a headphone or something like that. So we've got the micro SD card slot at the bottom. I don't know why it's at the bottom. I wish it was here, protected under this, so that it doesn't have the opportunity to fire out. You're also not given a micro SD card either, whereas I was with the X9D. So I think for the price they could have included that. The screen, you can see, it's very susceptible to fingerprints here, and I wish it was better protected. So with this one here, you have got this plastic part over the top, so if this gets cracked here, then you could just replace that part. But this is the screen, and it's sort of like a glossy finish as well, but this is very bright, so you don't need to worry too much about this. One thing I'm not too keen on are the brightness and dimming options, so it would have been nice for this screen to completely go off. That's not the case. It just dims, and you've got various options that you can go in there, change the number of seconds until it starts dimming, etc. It's not a big deal, and I think in general, I think the battery life's pretty good. And if you charge it the night before you go flying, you're talking 8 hours on time, which is all that you'll ever need. So I'm not concerned about the battery life of this guy whatsoever. So yeah, it is a updated version to the Tranist. It's more expensive, but I think we should move on. I think we need to move on in order to progress rather than being stuck with the X9D. So that is why I've invested in this. So what else do you get? Well, you get given these gimbal protectors here, which sit nicely over there. I already mentioned the charger. You're given this nice case here. We've got a neck strap there. We've got a manual, and that's pretty much everything that you get. So I've installed OpenTX. On here you can see that when you turn it on you get audio here, and it's saying that I've got one of my switches in the back position there. As you can see, you can customize the screen, so I got my Andy RC logo on there. You can take a picture of your copter and put it down there. So you can see we've got the option here to go into the model, so if I long press that, this is why I like having the OpenTX, because it's very familiar. You can see you've got the model name there, and then we've got the mode, D16 or D8, then you've got your binding option there as well, and you can select the model image, and if I page over, we've got the usual setups. So you've got your inputs, your mixer, everything is very familiar. So you could argue that there's no need to upgrade to this transmitter whatsoever from this point of view, but I want transmitters to progress, so that's why I've gone for it. And then if I press return there, we can go back to there, and if I hold down the system, you got your radio setup again, exactly the same as you get on the X9D. We can page over there, you've got your SD card, and global functions, trainer options, there's nothing different there. And then we can go into the setup here, and this is where you can change your different pages and things. And you can have more pages, and they call them widgets, so you can do setup widgets. So if we just select this here, I can have my channel output. You can have all sorts of things such as timers. You can set your timer up on a switch. So it's really good, and it is an advancement on this guy, but I'd like to see more. I would love it if this was running Android or Windows and we could load Betafly on here and control the copter. It's not there yet. Am I asking too much? Would you guys like to see that sort of thing from a expensive transmitter? It's something I certainly would. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can run with this one. And of course I'll update you on the channel, whether it becomes my main transmitter, whether I can let it replace this. It does feel different in the hands. It feels longer, specifically this part down here compared to here. It feels heavier as well, and I don't use a neck strap, so time will tell whether that becomes an issue, and like I say, I'll let you know. But until then, as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.